You're dealing with barbarians. You're dealing with subhumans. And Israel's supposed to show restraint. I wouldn't show restraint. Would we show restraint if this was going on? Mexico came across the border and was doing this to Texans or New Mexicans? No, we'd go in there and we'd wipe these bastards out. That would be the end of it. This remarkable press event that took place, the Democrats aren't holding press events. The Democrats as a group are not condemning the Islamists. The Democrats as a group are not objecting, as they should, to what's taken place to these Israeli Jewish teenage girls and others. You know, the hostages they won't release. You know, I said on my radio show, they're killing the hostages. They're abusing them and killing them. They're not all coming home. And that's what they did. And the reason's logical. If they're going to do it in Israel, they're going to do it in Gaza. It doesn't matter. You're dealing with barbarians. You're dealing with subhumans. And Israel's supposed to show restraint. I wouldn't show restraint. Would you show restraint? Would we show restraint if this was going on? Mexico came across the border and was doing this to Texans or New Mexicans? No, we'd go in there and we'd wipe these bastards out. That would be the end of it. And we wouldn't be counting heads either. We'd just take care of business. But that's the way it goes. So take a look at this on our college campuses, which I've talked about for years, which I wrote about in American Marxism, which I wrote about before that. I used to call them the last strongholds of Stalinism. And that's true today, but it's even worse today. It's even worse today. Let's take a look at what these brave young people have to say. Go.
My name is Talia Khan. I am an undergraduate alumna of MIT and a current graduate student at MIT. I am the daughter of a Jewish mother and an Afghan Muslim immigrant father.
Got that? She's the daughter of a Muslim father and a Jewish mother. That's America. But she sees what's going on and she's beyond disgusted at what's taking place. Because just like Hitler, if you have any Jewish blood, you're a Jew. That's all that matters. She's half Jewish, half Muslim. Go ahead.
I am the proud president of the MIT-Israel Alliance, and I am a Jewish student currently immersed in an extremely toxic anti-Semitic atmosphere at MIT. The MIT administration, namely President Sally Kornbluth, has failed to address the crisis of rampant anti-Semitism on campus. There is a radical anti-Israel group at MIT called the CAA. In recent weeks, the CAA's anti-Semitic rhetoric has shifted the culture on campus to such an extreme of intolerance that 70% of MIT's Jewish students polled feel forced to hide their identities and perspectives. An Israeli student whose identity and personal info was sold online for a bounty has not left his dorm room in weeks out of fear due to death threats. For my part, I was forced to leave my study group for my doctoral exams halfway through the semester because my group members told me that the people at the Nova Music Festival deserved to die because they were partying on stolen land. After a postdoc at MIT said that Jewish Israelis want to enslave the world in a global apartheid system, he falsely claimed that Israel harvests Palestinian organs and implied that the, quote, average Israeli is a Nazi. The DEI officer of his department replied by telling us that nothing he said was hate speech and that the organ harvesting conspiracy theory was, quote, confirmed. Day after day, the MIT administration has failed to enforce its own rules on anti-Semitic actors, such as the interfaith chaplain intimidating Jewish students, DEI staff publicly declaring that Israel has no right to exist, faculty dismissing student concerns for their safety by telling them that if they are scared, they should just go back to Israel. CAA protesters blocking the hallways, storming the offices of the MIT Israel internship offices and harassing the staff and faculty there, and inviting dangerous outsiders to campus to join them in yelling hateful and violent chants. This is the same climate of anti-Semitism.
This is the importation of the Islamist ideology and mentality into the United States. This is what happens when you have open borders. when you give student visas out to anybody, when people overstay their student visas, when these colleges and universities are receiving millions and millions of dollars from the Hamas network, from Soros front groups, millions and millions of dollars from the Communist Confucius Institutes, and all that going on in this country. And it is just disgusting. It's just appalling. Go ahead.
That has led to massacres of Jews throughout the centuries. This is not just harassment. This is our lives on the line. The MIT administration has punted disciplinary processes to a faculty committee on discipline, which has thus far not received a single one of our complaints. MIT admin has even failed to staff a new task force against hate, which will dually combat anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. This atmosphere is intolerable. Jewish students do not believe that the MIT administration has done an adequate job to make students feel safe on campus. President Kornbluth, please let me go back to being a scientist. Let me go back to being a student. I don't want to have to keep advocating for Jewish student safety on campus. It's not my job, it's your job. Please do your job and act now. And if you can't, I'm asking Congress to do it for you. Thank you.
Keep something in mind as you hear these very brave students and what they're confronting. This to me sounds like the 1930s, I'm not kidding. And you have one political party that is either embracing it or won't speak out against it as a group, as an entity. It's very important to keep this in mind. You might say, how's this happening here? Well, it's happening. It is happening. Go ahead.
Thank you, Talia. It's outrageous what's happening at MIT. We're next going to hear from Bella Ingber, who will tell us what's happening at NYU.
Thank you all for having me and for giving me the opportunity to share with you my story. My name is Bella Ingber. I am a junior at NYU, and I'm going to try to answer the following question for you from my personal experiences. What is it like to be a Jew at NYU? Being a Jew at NYU is walking to class and passing torn and defaced posters of innocent hostages with the words occupier and murderer written across their faces. It is going to Bobst Library to study and being interrupted by unauthorized protests where students and faculty call for a globalized intifada revolution, an incitement to violence against Jews everywhere, and a call for the annihilation of the Jewish state and my friends and family who live there. Being a Jew at NYU is being surrounded by students and faculty who support the murder and kidnapping of Jews because, after all, as they say, resistance is justified when people are occupied. It is being surrounded by social justice warriors and self-proclaimed feminists whose calls for justice end abruptly when the rape victims are Jews. Being a Jew at NYU has meant being physically assaulted in NYU's library by a fellow student while I was wearing an American-Israeli flag and having my attacker still roam freely throughout the campus. Being a Jew at NYU is experiencing how diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a value that NYU extends to its Jewish students. Since October 7th, the unmistakable anti-Semitism that I've experienced on campus is reminiscent of the Jew hatred I've heard about from my grandparents, Holocaust survivors, who experienced firsthand the deafening silence of their neighbors in Poland and Germany when the Nazis first rose to power. As anti-Semitic rhetoric and actions became more and more acceptable, their communities' shops were looted, their synagogues defaced, and finally, their families were taken away and perished in concentration camps. Today, in 2023, at NYU, I hear calls to gas the Jews, and I am told that Hitler was right. To the NYU administration, you are not free to selectively enforce your own rules. You are not free to refuse your Jewish students the same protections that you extend to others. NYU has adopted the International Holocaust Remembrance Association's definition of anti-Semitism, which recognizes that calls to harm Jews in the name of radical ideology, calls to eradicate Israel, to deny the Jewish people their right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland is anti-Semitism that is punishable under NYU's Code of Conduct. I am a proud Jew, and I am a proud Zionist. I am the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors. We are not going anywhere. anti-Semitism, and the support for terror should have no home at NYU or any other college campus. We made the promise of never again, and never again is now. Thank you.
So proud of these strong young ladies, and we stand with you absolutely. We'll hear next from University of Penn student Eyal Yacobi.
Well, I am both honored and thankful to be here. I should not be here today. I should be studying for my upcoming finals. I should be taking in every moment, every experience as an undergraduate student in my senior year of college. So while I should not be here today, I am. Because 36 hours ago, I, along with most of campus, sought refuge in our rooms, as classmates and professors chanted proudly for the genocide of Jews while igniting smoke bombs and defacing school property. The neighboring university's president immediately released a statement describing this as a brazen display of anti-Semitism. He went on saying, "Silence in the face of last night's demonstration of anti-Semitism and hate near our doorstep is not an option for me." Well, the doorstep of the neighboring university is in fact Penn. And in fact, Penn's president did choose silence. The neighboring university's president swiftly denounced the incident, and yet our president cannot. Because the glorious October 7th, and you're a dirty little Jew, you deserve to die, are words said not by Hamas, but by my classmates and professors. And because despite all of this, I am adamant and hopeful that we will not accept, least of all embrace, this horrific new normal on college campuses today. On October 7th, Israel was attacked. Since October 7th, American Jews have been under attack. My name is Eyal Yacobi, and I am a proud American studying at the University of Pennsylvania. I love Penn. I've wanted to attend this university since before I can remember. I'm here because the Penn I attend today is unrecognizable from the Penn I once used to know. Penn, once renowned for groundbreaking discoveries like the mRNA vaccine, is now a chilling landscape of hatred and hostility. Our university, revered for its pursuit of knowledge, has devolved into an arena where Jewish students tiptoe through their days, uncertain and unsafe. The situation at Penn has escalated into a full-blown crisis, with students openly asserting their intentions to proceed with plans with or without university permission. During COVID, strict guidelines governed everything from class attendance and graduation walks. Yet now, when students and faculty defy policies to intimidate Jewish students, where is the same resolute enforcement? For the past 3 weeks inside Houston Hall, our student center, an anti-Semitic headquarters has been erected with signs spreading Hamas propaganda. The organizers, both Penn-affiliated and not, were initially asked to leave as they are trespassing on campus property. Well, 3 weeks later, they are still sleeping there, and countless Jewish students have been harassed, yet the anti-Semitic dormitory remains. Clearly, both a disregard for school policies and permission to disregard them by a university unwilling to do anything. Not only are tensions palpable, but there have also been materialized actions taken to intimidate and harm students. A bomb threat against Hillel, a swastika spray painted, the Hillel and Chabad house is vandalized, a professor posting the armed wing of Hamas's logo on Facebook, a Jewish student accosted, "Jews are Nazis," etched adjacent to Penn's Jewish fraternity house. Why doesn't the university hold the perpetrators of such acts accountable? Is the university fearful that they may offend those who wish to intimidate and harass their fellow students? Penn's ambivalence fuels a crisis that has shattered my academic sanctuary. Policies meant to safeguard us have become hollow promises. And let us be clear, if they fail Jewish students today, tomorrow they will fail the rest of us. Nonetheless, I refuse to go back to 1939, when Jews had to hide their religious symbols and hide who they are due to the intimidation and harassment of us. I used to think this was nonsense, fear-mongering, until I was made aware that Penn recommended to students, quote, not wear clothing/accessories related to Judaism. Hundreds of posters mocking the hostages featuring cows instead of humans adorned Penn's campus 2 weeks ago. While on my way to class, I was greeted with chalk reading 90% of pigs are gas chambered. As a student, despite what my university says, I do not feel safe. Let me be clear, I do not feel safe. Luckily, there are policies in place to protect students from the heinous acts I described. Unluckily, the university seems to have no interest in upholding those very policies. It's time for the soul of our university to reclaim its integrity. And it's time for me and my fellow classmates to stop worrying for our lives. Thank you.
We'll hear from one more student. They're so well-spoken, and it sends a shudder down your spine to hear this is happening in America. It's absolutely outrageous. Jonathan Frieden from Harvard Law will speak next. Jonathan.
Thank you for having me here. My name is Jonathan Frieden, and I'm currently a student at Harvard Law School. I would like to share with you what my experience has been like since October 7th at Harvard Law School, and after over 30 student clubs signed on to a statement explicitly blaming Israel for the murder and the rape of their own people. Multiple times a week, on my way to class, I walk by mobs of people chanting "From the river to the sea," which is a call for the destruction of the state of Israel. Most recently, "We have you outnumbered," and "Globalize the Intifada." An intifada is an uprising, and the last two were marked by blowing up buses and restaurants. One day a few weeks ago, I was in a study room in the law school while classes were going on, and a mob of 200 people, many of whom not only were not law students, were not Harvard affiliates, got into our building, marched down the halls chanting these phrases. Jews took off their kippot, and I watched someone hide under a desk. Many of my friends ran up to the Dean of Students and DEI office, but they had locked their doors for their own safety. This was such a clear safety concern. It was also explicitly against school policy as it disrupted class. We heard nothing from Harvard. No email, nothing. I talk to my Jewish friends on campus every day. They tell me how afraid they are to go to class. They share hate messages they are receiving from other students on social media, including comparing Jews to Nazis. And they ask us, and they ask me, for safety advice because of the lack of effective communication from the university. So you might ask, what's the administration doing? We've brought them policy violations and photos of the student handbook that were explicitly violated. When they respond, if at all, responses are empty and meaningless. Responses such as, "We are aware of the situation." This is not how the university would treat other groups. We are happy that Harvard has created an anti-Semitism advisory board, but there is no transparency about what they do. They seemingly don't have executive power. They are certainly not accessible to students. I've personally asked to meet with them multiple times for weeks, and they have not responded to me. And no one knows what happens when you send them an incident report. We are not asking to limit free speech. We are asking the university to enforce their policies, to ensure safety and a climate conducive to education. The administration has asked us to abide by the rules, and we have unequivocally. It seems more and more that this rule only applies to Jews, as broken rules are not being enforced or outwardly reprimanded. I want to be clear. This is not just about the Middle East. This is anti-Semitism, right here, in our homes, on our campuses. It is dangerous. It is going unchecked. And everyone that does not join to put a stop to it is part of the problem. I am asking, as I have been, do something. Protect Jewish people. Protect your students. Thank you.
That was quite remarkable.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.